All right, folks, we're just about a week away from the national semifinal, Alabama and Cincinnati. And while the teams prepare, there's been some adversity, and we will get to that with Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. Please also join Stephen on his show right here on YouTube. In my own words, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 Central call-in show. You got to catch him right there and get yourself prepped for the enormous matchup coming up. Stephen, how you doing?
Doing great, Mark. We got Christmas here in 2 days. I just finished up the shopping here, so I'm done. I am done on my end.
Well, yes. Once the shopping's in place and everything's done, you can deep that that sigh of relief. Absolutely.
Big sigh of relief there, but I feel like Mark did a pretty good job on this one. I got the right assortment of gifts, so hopefully everybody will be pleased with what they're receiving here.
I learned a long time ago to have my kids just give me a list with links so I can't mess anything up. So it's foolproof at this point. Stephen, some adversity regarding the Alabama preparation for this college football playoff with Bill O'Brien and Doug Marrone, offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, both testing positive. And so that is obviously a situation now based on what you conveyed to me before we started to record. That is a day-by-day process. They may be able to coach in the game, but of course, Nick Saban and staff have to prepare for the worst-case scenario.
Absolutely. So right now, Mark, what's going on in college football, of course, you know this. We have a rise, a spike here in these COVID-19 cases, and you've got a lot of the protocols going off about, what happens if you have to reschedule a college football semifinal game. What happens if you have to reschedule the national championship game? What goes into if teams are not healthy enough, do you forfeit the game? So it's just so much going on right now with this respike here in cases. But in terms of Alabama, where Bill O'Brien and Doug Marrone are concerned, we did get an update from the University of Alabama on both coaches who are right now at home isolating right now, experiencing mild symptoms. Now, both guys, Marrone and O'Brien, of a team anticipates both of them still being able to coach in the semifinal matchup against Cincinnati, provided they had the 2 to 3 negative tests before getting down there. But like you mentioned, in the worst case scenario, Alabama does have to have guys on staff preparing this team for the matchup. In terms of the play calling, you do have Alex Mortensen, who's an offensive analyst, and he's been on staff for the Crimson Tide for quite some time, about a few years now. And he has been incredible with helping Steve Sarkisian with game planning, Brian Daboll with game planning when Daboll was here, Michael Locksley with game planning, of course now Bill O'Brien with game planning as well. So you would have to think Mortensen would step in terms of helping with the play call things. And also Holman Wiggins, the wide receivers coach, has been on staff since 2019. He is the only holdover offensively from that 2019 staff. So he knows a wealth of knowledge about what Alabama wants to do offensively the last, 3+ years or so. So you would have to think Wiggins would step in and also help with that play calling scheme if O'Brien cannot be there. Then when you look at the offensive line perspective, Drew Swoboda, yes, he's a special teams coach, but he does have some experience there with offensive linemen. So you would have to think he would step over, give a hand to that, and then more than likely Coach Saban would have somebody from the support staff group to also help with the offensive line as well. It's a good thing you have Evan Neal at left tackle who knows offensive line play, the experience he brings in his game at that left tackle spot. So it's a good thing when you have Evan Neal. It's a good thing when you have Chris Owens, who's been at the program for 6 years. It's a good thing when you have veterans on your team that kind of know what to do. But that's where we stand right now, Mark. In terms of the play calling, I would look at Alex Mortensen, the offensive analyst, with Holman Wiggins basically kind of helping out there. And then on the offensive line side, Drew Swoboda with somebody from the support staff helping out there.
He is Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. Please join him, the rest of the staff there at touchdownalabama.com to get yourself set for everything involving Alabama football. And, of course, the national semifinal game coming up against the Bearcats of Cincinnati. Stephen's got a great show, call-in show 3 times a week right here on YouTube. In my own words, it's at 6 Central Time, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 6 Central. Stephen, looking at this matchup, let's size it down to this one. And you mentioned it before we started to record. Kobe Bryant, Sauce Gardner, a Cincinnati secondary that's very accomplished, difficult to pass on, and an Alabama receiving core that has been over the top elite in previous seasons. Jamison Williams had a tremendous year. John Mechie and his 96 catches gone. Obviously, guys will have to step up, and there is concern out there that Alabama will not have enough playmakers to deal with that secondary.
Oh, absolutely, Mark. And I think the biggest question going into this will be for Coach Saban in particular is how do you go about attacking Sauce Gardner? I mean, that's the biggest question. How do you go about attacking him and Kobe Bryant? You're looking at 2 of the best corners in college football. Cincinnati, the best pass defense, one of the best pass defenses, one of the best pass efficiency defenses in college football. And both guys, Gardner and Bryant, both 6'1" and taller. Gardner at 6'3", 100 pounds. We're looking at one of the best corners going into the 2022 NFL draft. Gardner, throughout his 3-year career, 18 pass breakups, 9 interceptions, including 2 return for touchdowns. He has not given up a touchdown in the red zone this season. According to Pro Football Focus, Gardner, a pass coverage grade of 85.8 and 448 coverage snaps. Big deal right there for Gardner. He's a lockdown defensive back. And then Kobe Bryant, in his own right, 6'1", 198 this season for Gardner, for Bryant, 11 pass breakups for him, leads the team. He's got 3 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, including 1 return for a touchdown. Bryant, according to Pro Football Focus, has a grade of 86.3 in terms of his coverage ability. So you got 2 of the best corners here in the game with Bryant and Gardner. How does Coach Saban go about going about attacking these guys? Does he go with running the football more with Brian Robinson, with Trey Sanders, and maybe getting some design runs with Bryce Young to kind of loosen this defense up a bit and then go over the top? Or does he choose to put Jamison Williams, put Ja'Cory Brooks, put Trayshawn Holden, put different guys in motion and with a lot of movement, a lot of motion, a lot of shifting, and try to create matchups that way? Because both of these 2, Gardner and Bryant, big-time defensive backs.
Conventional thought typically would be group of 5 team, though extremely talented, quick, fast, but maybe undersized, maybe not as deep as they need to be. Alabama with a punishing ground game typically, but this season we can cite all the games in which this running game struggled: Auburn, LSU, and others. So do you think that this Alabama run game is capable of having a dominant effort based on your research of Cincinnati's front?
I think it does, Mark. And I think, Mark, it comes down to the play from the offensive line. And I feel like the moment Seth McLaughlin, number 56, the sophomore from Beaufort, Georgia, when he entered the game in the second half of the Iron Bowl, he stabilized that offensive front there against Auburn. Alabama was able to run the football a bit better. It was able to control the line of scrimmage a lot more. And, of course, that created the big touchdown drive at the end there, the fourth quarter. Bryce Young to Ja'Cory Brooks to tie the game at 10. And then the 4 overtimes ensued before Alabama won the matchup. But, of course, in the SEC championship game against Georgia, McLaughlin did an incredible job taking on 6'6", 340-pound Jordan Davis and making him a non-factor. Alabama was able to get the run game going a bit in that matchup with Chris Owens playing right tackle. He played well also. So I feel like this is a team that can get that run game established. I feel like the last two games, Auburn and Georgia, the offensive line finally sort of figured out what it is and finally sort of figured out what it needs to do. So I think it carries that confidence into Cincinnati. Alabama should be able to run this football with Brian Robinson, with Trey Sanders. Once again, some design runs with Bryce Young, make him a threat with his legs. Force Cincinnati to make a decision here, whether it's they bring in somebody else into the box so that you can open up that passing game. Because like I mentioned, Gardner and Bryant are two elite corners. There's a reason why these two guys have high NFL draft grades on them. They can defend the ball. They can play the ball in the air. They can play the north of the field. They are physical. They are rangy. They are athletic. They have tremendous ball skills. So I feel like you're going to have a balance in this game. And I think coming off the last two matchups here, the offensive line finally had a resurgence of what we are as a football team, being the Crimson Tide. This group should be able to run the football.
Folks, please like the video. It helps us build the channel. Subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. Pick out your favorite team. We most likely have a team channel for you here at the Voice of College Football as well. Got Stephen M. Smith of touchdownalabama.com on the line. Catch his show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 6 Central, in my own words, 6 Central, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Eli Ricks, Derek Stingley formed one of the better tandems of cornerbacks, probably the best tandem in the nation for the past 2 seasons. Unfortunately for LSU fans, they didn't see them on the field together as often as they would have liked. Now, Stingley most likely will make the decision to move on to the NFL. Ricks entered the transfer portal, made his decision to come to Alabama. What do you think Alabama has in Eli Ricks for 2022?
Well, I think, Mark, first and foremost, you got a young man with experience in the SEC. And Coach Saban, this is what he does. If he's going to go into the portal, he's going to pull somebody out that has major college football experience and, most importantly, SEC experience. Ricks has played in 16 games at LSU, 10 his freshman year in 2020, of course, 6 this year due to a shoulder injury limiting him from being on the field. But as a freshman, this was a young man, 5 pass breakups, 4 interceptions, including 2 return for touchdowns, a guy that's got 6 career pass breakups, 5 career interceptions, 6'2", 196 pounds, long range, athletic, really good ball skills, and turns his head in playing the football. And that's one thing that Alabama fans are like, finally, get a guy in here that when the ball's in the air, play it, turn your head, face it, play the football. Alabama has been plagued at points this year with a lot of pass interference calls, defensive holding calls. So you get a guy in here that when that ball is in the air, his head is turned, he's playing the football. You can see the technique there that he shows on the field. What this also does here, Mark, is that no matter how Saban plays this, it's how will the secondary look next spring with Ricks in here? Because Ricks can play outside corner. He can also play slot corner in nickel. Will it be Ricks and Kool-Aid McKinstry both outside corners? Will it be Kool-Aid McKinstry, Kyrie Jackson both outside, Ricks at slot corner? Because you're going to return Brian Branch. You're going to return Malachi Moore. Possibly you're going to return DeMarco Hellams if he has a huge college football playoff coming up here. And to me, Jordan Battle, I basically have a late first round, early second round grade on Battle. I think Battle will pursue the draft regardless of what happens. So the biggest piece here is DeMarco Hellams in the secondary. What does he do moving forward? And that will start here with this playoff. So bringing in Ricks, experienced guy, major experienced guy. Saban has a lot of pieces here in this defensive backfield. It all comes down to how does he want to play this in spring ball.
Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy that's had a heck of a time trying to win games at Georgia Tech, 3-9 this past season in 2 seasons with the Yellow Jackets, but a very productive runner in the ACC. Over 700 yards, 5.2 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns this past season. He's caught 59 passes out of the backfield the last 2 years for Georgia Tech. What do you see in Jahmyr Gibbs as he enters Crimson?
phenomenal player, Mark. I mean, one of the better players in the ACC, and we're looking at 1,800 plus all-purpose yards, 7 touchdowns this past year. I mean, this season here, we look at the rushing yards and the receiving yards, but the young man also had 589 kick return yards with a touchdown. So we see the dynamic play he also brings from the special teams aspect, and having him with Jace McClellan, who's coming back from a knee injury he suffered this year for next season. Those two together make a dynamic tandem. And not to mention, you still have Roydell Williams coming back, Trey Sanders coming back, Kamar Wheat coming back, and then you sign 2 other guys in this recent class with Emmanuel Henderson and Jamar Young Miller. So you're looking at 7 backs on the roster to enter spring ball. And what this means, we're back to a similar conversation. What will the pecking order look like? How will these guys stack up in relation to the roster? If some guys feel like they're not getting the attention that they need, we could see 1 to 2 hit the transfer portal after next spring. Who knows? Saban will look to try to keep all 7 backs on the roster, but that's going to be very difficult to do, especially when you look at Gibbs, who can make an immediate impact. Jace McClellan, you know what he brings to the table from a running standpoint, receiving standpoint, a potential special teams standpoint. Roydell Williams, an in-state talent. He had a pretty good year this year prior to him getting hurt. Kamara Wheaton was a 5-star in the 2021 class out of Texas. And then you look at Emmanuel Henderson and Jamar Young Miller coming in here. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the running back room shakes out. But getting Gibbs, the guy can ball. The guy can flat out play.
Steven, Merry Christmas. We always appreciate you being here, laying down the knowledge for us. You and your friends and family have a tremendous Christmas weekend, and we'll see you back here soon.
Absolutely, Mark. Merry Christmas to you guys.